Hi, we'd like to call to order the Livingston Parish Council meeting. This is the regular meeting, May 10th, 2018. Miss Sandy, you call, or whatever mind. Mr. John, you got invitation?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to invite someone to come lead us in a prayer tonight. And you know, to do that, some of the greatest experiences of Christianity are not always confined to the four walls of a church with stained rose glass windows. And though it's not always your stereotypical starched shirt preacher always, this gentleman does preach on most Sundays, most of his listeners are sitting in the seat of a motorcycle. Hopefully it's a American-made Indian motorcycle. But he's a good friend of mine, and the motto of the church is, I'd rather be sitting on my motorcycle thinking about Jesus than sitting in a church pew thinking about riding my motorcycle. So I'd like to introduce to you a longtime friend. He's always been a preacher of grace and mercy of Jesus. And he's a gentleman and a tall giant, my friend, Mr. Terry Lobel.
Thank you so much. Let's pray. Father, thank you for the joy and the freedom of being here tonight. And Lord, upon the backs of that freedom were the men and women that fought for us, and I want to remember them tonight, their families, and I pray your hand be upon each of those this night that wear that uniform. And all of the things that's going on in our world, Lord, we know that we are free. And Lord, I thank you tonight that I'm in this hall with men and women that have chosen to serve their community. And I thank you that we live in one of the most beautiful states and that we live in the most beautiful parish. And so, Lord, I pray your hand of protection upon them and their families, that you give them great judgment, you give them your leadership and your guidance in each decision that they make. Lord, thank you that our parish is a cut above all. And thank you for our athletics. Thank you for our waters. Just thank you, Lord, that of all the places that you could have sent me, that you let me be born, it was right here in Livingston Parish. And so, Lord, I pray your blessings upon each family, each person here this night. And I honor you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Favor, you're going to play it.
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Miss Sandy, please call roll.
Mr. Lobel. Mr. Averett.
Here.
Mr. Mack. Here. Mr. Ard.
Here.
Mr. Wascombe.
Here.
Mr. Grindhouse.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Harris. Mr. Talbert.
Here.
I'd like to remind everyone, if you have a cell phone, please turn it off or mute it. During our meeting, we'll allow public input. So when we get to an item, if you have something you'd like to speak on about it, please come to the podium, state your name and your address, and we'll give you your time to speak. At this time, we'd like to have a presentation that Mr. Mack is going to handle.
Thank you for the opportunity, Jeff. I'm going to ask that my co-councilman, Mr. Tad Lobel, and Mr. Jeff Ard come help me with this recognition. Let a few more come on over. You can.
So
say. Tonight, we welcome the Holden Lady Rockets for such a great achievement and recognition for winning the Class B state championship in both basketball and softball. What a great honor that is that they have achieved that. And it's to my recognition and memory that a lot of these girls in Holden has came to these chambers 3 consecutive years. Every year that we've been elected and been council members, this group here, they have been up here as state champions. What a great accomplishment that is. And so I want to get a little help from my co-councilman. I was thinking that possibly we could pass a resolution and dedicate this whole corridor right here to the Holden Lady Rockets. They come here so often because they're always winning state championships. And we could take that frog over there down and we could put a rocket. No, I'm really just joking. I really am just joking. It really is a great accomplishment. You know, I had the opportunity of attending and graduating from Holden High School. And some of the greatest memories I had was the faculty at Holden and how much they loved the students and how much they cared for them and how much they prepped them for life and to the will that they had to see all of their students be successful. And one of the second greatest things was the community and the love that the community had for the sports and how they would go to the games and support the schools. And it was just a lot of fun and it was a lot of great memories. And my message tonight is just to the young ladies of Holden High School. May you cherish these memories. May you stick together, love each other, and try to take care of each other as you go out through life. May you set goals high as the moon. May you achieve those goals by working hard as you possibly can. And if it be God's will, may you reach the moon on a mascot called the Rocket. We just want to congratulate Holden for such a successful program. We are so honored and privileged and thankful that y'all came here tonight. We've got some plaques, okay? And these plaques are going to be presented to the coaches. This is, let me read this to you. This is Holden Girls Basketball in recognition of your outstanding performance during the 2017-2018 season and Class B State Championship. This is presented by the Livingston Parish Council. We're going to take a big group picture at the end. This is just a quick snapshot. We got many more. Pam Forbes and Craig Forbes, the coaches. And so we want to hand out some certificates, and we'll just call them out one by one, and we'll try to do the best we can to pass them out as quickly as possible to the right individual. Amanda Feckety. I totally understand. I think that's good. Kayla Hughes. Great job. Caitlin Crowbog. Victoria Richardson. Shelby Forbes. Taylor Forbes. JC Hughes. Emma Hutchinson. Stafford. Brianna Sheridan. Hannah Harris. Gabby Sharp.
Oh yeah.
Megan Brightup. Camille Comish. Madeline Richardson. Shelby Stafford. Congratulations. Reagan Stewart. See, y'all didn't think there was this many people in Oldham, but it is. Allie Smith. All right. Okay, this plaque is for the softball team. Coaches. Okay, this is Holding Girls Softball in recognition of your outstanding performance during the 2018 season in Class B State Championship. Cipriano. You know, I don't know if anybody did their history lesson, but has any school in Livingston Parish ever won state championship? You did your research. It's really a great honor. It truly is.
Time here. My daughter has had the privilege of playing ball with a lot of these girls, so I want to be a part of this. So now the softball team, Casey Brunup, Emily Breven, Bertrand, you got Hannah Sands, Emma Hutchinson. Olivia Lackins. She's not here. We would know because she'd be taller than me. Ashley Fogg. Taylor Barfield.
It's the exact same thing.
Halton. Hannah Harris. That's what threw me off with their Gracie Dunn. Cameron Newton. Emma Wilson. Shelby Forbes. Madison Thomas. And last but not least, I'll put this one last because I just want to tell y'all something real brief. It's Olivia Big Time Barnes here. She had an injury a couple years ago, and she could have hung up softball. But she loved it so much, she couldn't bat because of her injury. She couldn't bat from the right side of the plate anymore. So she went and got training to bat from the left side of the plate, and she batted dang near 400 this year from the left side of the plate, learning how to slap. So that just goes to show you, whenever you got a love for something and a little adversity, she made it happen. Congratulations.
not saying it.
Yeah, y'all want to come around here, that's fine, yeah.
I'm sure, as long as I get away. Oh, wait, this way.
Do we touch this?
Don't move, okay?
Okay. Orange, you get right here.
You'll screw down.
Maddie, are we touching this thing?
Why are we doing like cutting? No.
But that feels weird.
I'm gonna get behind the shark.
Oh, there's a problem.
How are we standing? I don't know, like.
Let's just get right here.
I can't believe it.
This podium is moving.
You got it?
What if you backed up to the kitchen?
Shelby's better. Don't peel it off. That's hard. Why would you tell me that? Now all I want to do is peel.
Sorry. Shelby.
Am I still on TV? Hey, it's right there.
Great job.
I'm coming.
Great job.
Okay.
Thank y'all for coming.
No, we're gonna go on. We're gonna do some stuff without him. Just let them finish. What's that?
You can say it.
Yeah. All right, item 8, adoption of the minutes from the April 26, 2018 regular meeting of the council.
Make a motion to adopt the minutes.
Motion by Mr. Garlinghouse, second by Mr. Harris. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item 9, adopt a resolution to split precinct 7B. This was Jared Andrews.
We're required by state law, anytime there's any precincts that are over 2,200 registered voters, it requires a split. So this is in Mr. Averett's district, and it's just maintenance. We've done it many, many times before, and there's a map behind the resolution if you need to see how it's being split.
Motion from Mr. Averett, second from Mr. Wascom. We have any comments from the public on this? Any comments from the council? We'll call for a vote. Yep, call for a vote.
Mr. Lidwell.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Matt.
Yes.
Mr. Rose.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Roundhouse.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
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 Okay, item 10, a resolution and proclamation acknowledging the notice of retirement filed with the Secretary of State by Thomas L. Sullivan, Jr., Livingston Parish Clerk of Court, and calling for a special election to fill the unexpired term and otherwise providing with the respect thereto. This is basically, Mr. Sullivan has decided to retire, and I guess we just have to
We're required to call for an election.
do a resolution on this.
Accept his resignation, and
Accept it.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Wascom, second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Is there any comment from the public? Any comment from the council?
I am jealous that he's getting to retire.
Boy, mean.
Ms. Sandy, call for the vote.
The resolution is in your meeting packet.
Yep, got it.
Mr. Lobel.
Yes.
Mr. Averett.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
All right, item 11, Parish President Report.
Oh, no.
We can wait till Chris. Okay. Okay, we're going to move to item 12, Office of Homeland Security.
This is a resolution I need, asking y'all to accept the amendment number 2 of the School Act Plan. All of them have to come back again.
Yes, we just have the agreement in here.
Mark called me and said this is standard procedure, so I need a motion to accept the resolution. Motion by Mr. Lobel, second by Mr. Harris. Any comment from the public? Any comments from the council? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
We can go into executive, ask y'all to go into executive.
We're gonna,
Now, do you want to wait?
we'll wait for Chris to get here, so,
About 5 minutes.
okay. We'll go ahead and move on to item 13. Mr. Sam, Planning Department.
James is going to be hard to follow.
All the way to the moon, Sam. All the way to the moon.
Right or right.
First on the agenda for the planning department is a preliminary site plan for Dollar General. It's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for the Dollar General. This is in Mr. Jeff Ard's district. Engineers out in Fairfield,
Sam, I've had one call on this and one question, and that's, are they going to be putting fence around it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We had the same questions at the planning commission meeting. The folks were there. Any concern? I think we addressed all that.
I know like the one that didn't, just finished in Mr. Talbert's district, that looks pretty nice the way they put that fence around it.
Now, Sam, the drawing only shows a fence on, wait a second, is this the right?
Yeah,
It only shows a fence on one side. Is that because the property next to it's like use?
The resident on that side.
Okay, so what happens if they put a resident on the other side? They don't have,
They don't put a fence up there.
so they're gonna go ahead and put a fence all the way around even though the preliminary site plan only shows the fence on one side? Okay.
You good with it, Mr.
They
Arnold?
just hammered that out.
Now, there's a section.
Yeah, I'm good with it. I'm good with it.
I'll make the motion.
Yeah, but I think the only reason to put that fence, like you said, the residential home on the side. It's either vacant, but if the commercial's there and somebody puts a house, I think you're going to require a fence.
There's a section of woods there, and I don't know exactly how far it is.
If there is a resident there, then they need a fence all the way around. I mean, otherwise, you only have one around the side because it's just one.
Okay, so the ordinance says like use, so if that's the only commercial there, then everything around it's not like use, so wouldn't they have to fence it, or does they only have to fence if there's a resident?
Yeah, there's something that they can use with the resident, or something would be there, then the fence would be there. That's what we've done, that's the way we do it. So if it's vacant, then it's not.
Well, I mean, I guess the question then, the Jeff asked, is there gonna be a fence around it? And if you're only gonna put it on the side with the residents, if the people that that have property on the other side are concerned that it doesn't match the use of their land, then in theory, they should have to put a fence all the way around it, shouldn't they?
Well, the ordinance doesn't relate to it.
I thought
You've got buffers on there, so to speak, and you don't have a resident occupying that place at that time, then he's not required to put that.
So if they come and build a resident there, he will have to come back and put the fence
Store
up.
has been there, was there first.
So he wouldn't have to.
So he would never have to.
So, I mean,
But the folks that came to the meeting Wednesday night, their concern was answered. I think they were the one in recent.
So it's an empty lot right now?
Sorry.
It's an empty lot on where the...
It's nothing but woods right now.
I mean, well, then, if they want to fence
so
something...
Sam, and I don't have the ordinance in front of me, I thought if it was a different use, they had to put the fence. You say they only had to put the fence if it was a resident?
Well, no, I didn't say that. I said it. Dollar General store is there first. Nothing's there. But the wooded area and no residents. And we don't have zoning in this.
Oh, I mean, I understand, so...
You can't dictate between commercial and residential.
I think Chad got an
What
answer.
the ordinance does.
Just real quick, it says, conflicting uses, maintain, say a minimum of 25-foot buffer shall be established between conflicting uses caused by location of a new industrial, commercial, industrial development or public project adjacent to the property being used for residential purposes, unless approved by the parish council. The buffer is required if it's conflicting use that you already have there, so I'm thinking.
So but the fence is only required on residential unless the council wants to have a fence all the way around it?
That's the way it's reading.
What's your thoughts on that, Jeff?
In other words, we only require a fence if it's got if it's commercial property going in and it's a residential existing on that adjacent property, we require a fence.
And I mean, I guess my point is, if somebody had acquired the property and planned on building a house at a later date and weren't ready yet, and Dollar General comes in first, then they're stuck with a piece of property that they would then have to erect a fence to generate a buffer between them and the Dollar General. So I'm just wondering if we would be better served to ask the Dollar General to be, I mean, it's your district.
I would prefer a fence be all the way around it.
Well, I got one thing to say. If someone buys the property, decide it wants to put a commercial building there, is Dollar General going to take the fence down? I mean, why are you jumping ahead?
I mean,
It's his district.
it's the concerns that I've had. I mean, I
just know what he's concerned about, so that's why.
I thought you said you was good with it.
So in other words, what
Well, I
we're
thought he
saying
said
is we
we put the
can
fence all
require
around.
them to put a fence all the way around. The council can
I would prefer a fence be around it.
All the way around.
Yeah.
With that being said, make it into your motion.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
That,
you
I mean,
want a motion.
Is that what you want to make a motion to approve it if a fence is all the way
I
around
would
the
rather,
property?
well,
On both sides, right? I mean,
it'd be
All three sides.
three sides.
we got it with, this is Dollar General's engineer.
From what I'm understanding, Dollar General is actually going to be the one buying that piece of property next door. I mean, it's not 100% sure, but it's in the works right now. They're going to acquire that piece of property next to them. So there's not going to be a residential development there at this time. But if y'all do want us to put the fence there, if y'all do want Dollar General to put the fence there, we will show it on the map and we will get it done. I mean, it is definitely up to the council, if they want a fence on that side or not.
Well, you could make a motion to have Dollar General put the fence up, and then if before the fence is not installed, they acquire the piece of property, then there would be no reason.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
I would be good with that.
That'd be good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so at this time, until the property is acquired, if and when it is acquired by Dollar General, they won't be required to put the fence up.
If they buy the property, then
They don't have to put a fence beside it.
Okay. That'd be fine. We can do it, and if they do not acquire it, then we will have Dollar General put a fence up on that side. That's not a problem at all.
I think that's the best way. Thank you, Tom.
No problem. Thank you.
I make a motion that, well, I'm going to go with this, that accept the ordinance as it's written with the understanding that if Dollar General acquires the property that's adjoining one side, then they do not have to put a fence up. Otherwise, if they don't, then the fence is required on the one side on the one side that's facing the empty lot, right?
Yes.
You got that, Ms. Sandy?
All right, I make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right. Got a motion by Mr. Gardenhouse, second by Mr. King. Is there any comments from the public on this? Any more comment from the council? Sandy, call for the vote.
Mr. Lovell?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Gardenhouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
You know, just a little FYI, if, you know, these commercial developments like that should have a fence around all sides of it. So it might be something that y'all want to, I mean, I'm very adamant about fences because of residents coming in at a later date. It's got to deal with commercial.
Well, if we tighten that ordinance up and make it like that, we could always grant a waiver if there's some like this where they own the property next door, and we can, that would be easier to grant a waiver and make sure it's tight.
Isn't that state law? State law say commercial developments have to have a fence around it?
I'm not aware of it.
I think that's just us.
But you'll have a lot of situations in the parish that when we have these review meetings on Mondays, and we feel the need that this fence is needed, you know, we'll request that. But if my memory serves me right, there's a buffer zone in between the building and the property line.
Yeah, which is like 25 feet. Most time it ends up being a parking lot or something. So
that might be the case, but I'm just saying it's a wooded area back there.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you make it in black and white and say, you know, that, you know, we need fences around these commercial developments like that, then there's no questions there. So,
okay.
Just a little food for thought. Next on the agenda is a multifamily development. Cypress Landing Townhouses, preliminary site plan. This is in Mr. Scooter's district. Off of Lockhart Road is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Cypress Landing Townhomes. And as you can see, there's no waivers at all on this.
Yeah, no waivers. It's all planning said it looked good. I'll make a motion to accept the preliminary site plan. I'll second.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Wascom. Is there any comment from the public? Any more comment from the council? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, and just
On something like that, that's going to require a gravity drainage study, right? A drainage impact study?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's in gravity
We
one.
won't do that on everything from now on.
Yeah.
Period. So, well, I don't know what we got to do, Shane. We got to fix it.
just so everybody knows, 13B and 13C have been tabled.
Right.
Well, I kind of jumped the gun. Are you ready?
Nope, you up.
I just kind of bounced up here.
Yep.
As most of you know, we've had a lot of discussions back and forth on the Laurel Ridge levee that's being built in Ascension Parish. And I would like to ask the council if they would allow us to go into executive session. I have our review engineer, Mr. Chad Bacchus, here, and of course, Mr. Moody will be back there with us as well to discuss what's going on and what the latest is in our thoughts.
Need a motion to go in executive session. Mr. Gardenhouse makes the motion. Mr. Talbot seconds it. Sandy, call for the vote.
Mr. Lovell?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Gardenhouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
All right, we're going to go to the back to have this. We'll be back in as soon as we're done.
Channel 17, proudly serving the Florida parishes.
Motion to go back into the regular meeting. Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Talbot. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, I'd just like to state that no action was taken in the special meeting.
Council, back to the agenda item, the Laurel Ridge Levee Extension Project. In my opinion, based on discussions with the engineer, is going to, based on two different studies that they've been reviewing for us, is going to have an adverse effect on Livingston Parish. And I'll let Mr. Chad Bacchus with Fort Neblata come up and answer any questions, but I would like to ask the council to authorize me through our attorney Chris Moody to move forward with filing an injunction against Ascension Parish and any other parties that Mr. Moody feels necessary to try to get an injunction for them to stop this project. I want to state very clearly that in no way do I want to hurt the people of Ascension Parish, but by my job and on the other hand, I'm going to do everything I can to protect the people, as I know you want to, in Livingston Parish. So I am asking y'all to authorize us to move forward with an injunction. And at that point, or at this point, Mr. Moody or Mr. Bacchus can answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Chad? Do I have any questions for him? Do I have questions for Chris?
The questions were answered. The question, do we want to, give some information? Chad could probably come tell us what we need to, what the basis of this is.
Yeah, he'd be a lot more technical than I can.
Yeah, just real brief, I guess, the two studies. One was the one that was approved with the Corps, and that was the extension of the new levee, the new levee that we're talking about. And it shows that like an 1.5 inches or 1.3 inch or something increase along the A-meet. So, and the other study even showed more impact. It was a draft study, so it wasn't official. But it showed even a larger increase. But the scope of the two studies were a little bit different. The second one that had the larger increase also showed the existing levee being raised up a little bit as well with the new extension of the levee. So they're a little bit different from each other, but they both showed some kind of impact or some kind of increase along the A-meet. So that's why we were given the direction that it would have some kind of adverse impact on Livingston.
Good night.
So the only question I had was so if we follow this injunction, Mr. Moody, this will stop the construction until it goes to court and the judge rules on basically whether they can proceed or not?
Well, the mere filing is not going to stop anything. We're asking for a hearing before the judge to consider a preliminary injunction, and then if there's a determination there's irreparable injury, a permanent injunction to stop the project. So that, our hope is that Ascension Parish will work with us and try to find a solution that serves both parishes without hurting one. We don't really want to pursue litigation against our sister parish. I know you don't either.
Right.
But we feel like we have to get this in place. We would be happy to negotiate and talk to them. It doesn't seem like they're stopping, so we think this is about the only thing we need to do at this point.
We have to protect the people who live in the parish.
Is there?
I feel like we have enough water.
We have enough water issues as it is. We don't need anybody else dumping any water on us on top of that. And I just don't know any other way to do it other than this mechanism here. So I would like to ask the council to support that.
All right. We got a motion from Mr. Averitt, a second from Mr. Lobel. Is there any comment from the public on this? Any more comment from the council? Ms. Sandy, you call for the vote, please.
Mr. Lobel?
Yes.
Mr. Averitt?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Layton. Okay, item 14. We are now entering a public hearing. This is for adoption of LP ordinance number 18-16, pond excavation. Ms. Sandy, you need to read this.
This is proposed ordinance 18, an ordinance to amend chapter 4.5 Building and Building Regulations, Article 1 in general, by adding section 4.5-7, pond excavation criteria and regulations, to the Code of Ordinances in and for the Parish of Livingston.
Do we have any comment from the public on this? From the podium, state your name and address.
My name is Gordon Courtney, 31246 Old Baton Rouge Highway, Albany, Louisiana. I know Mr. Mack has worked very hard on this ordinance. I've actually attended a couple of the meetings. I only have one problem with the ordinance. I expressed it once before, and I didn't realize it was still in the ordinance. I own property that it's a 20-acre tract, but it's in 5 plats. I have had that property surveyed probably 6 times during the course of my ownership. I'm being told now if I want to have a pond that crosses my own property line, I have to have the property surveyed as one single plat. I don't want to cut the property, I don't want to resurvey the property into one single plat. I want to be able to take the property as it is and go across my own property line with my pond. I don't want to pay a $500 fine because somebody decides the verbiage in the ordinance.
I want to answer that. I can answer that. I went to a town council meeting in Killian, and there was a gentleman there, and he had two sisters. They shared some property, and they ran into the same case scenario. And you're right, you wouldn't be able to do it under this particular ordinance. But I think that it's extremely hard to write one ordinance to fit every single scenario out there. I think that the ordinance committee worked really hard to produce a really a beneficial ordinance for all the people of Livingston Parish. If you have a one-off case, such as your situation, where you own two pieces of property, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I would think that you'd be able to come here after you were denied your permit and maybe get a variance, you know. I think that would be, and then once you got a variance, then it would be good, you know, it would be documented, the whole 9 yards, and you would forever be able to do what you need to do.
Well, with the understanding that I currently hold a permit, and with the understanding that this ordinance is not yet in effect, can I ask for that variance tonight, or do I need to go to your office and then ask?
Well, I think that you would have to wait. Mr. Moody might be able to answer this question, but I would think that you would have to wait until this ordinance is introduced and then ask the variance. But this ordinance does address any additional excavations. So as you continue to dig, you have a pond, then you have to follow the ordinance. Do you agree with that, Mr. Moody?
Yes. But I would think his situation, easily, I wouldn't think anybody would stand in the way of a variance.
Do you have your permit now? I do have you were saying you had two sisters that own?
No, I didn't. A constituent that lived in Killian brought up this scenario.
Just a different scenario.
Yeah.
See, you got to draw the line somewhere, because that is two different people.
Two property owners.
Yes, but in your case, I mean, I would have absolutely no problem granting a
No, do you have your permit already?
Yes, sir.
Why would that affect anything? He already has it.
He's grandfathered in.
He's grandfathered.
He should be
in.
grandfathered.
Well, but I thought.
Wouldn't it, Chris?
It says in here, it specifically says if you add on to the excavation project, like, so.
I did not. When I
if you're still in the process, I mean, I don't know, Mr. Moody would have to answer.
Yeah, you're in the process. Where are you in the process?
Are you finished?
No, sir. I'm at the beginning, and I told them it would be up to 9 acres when I applied for the permit.
So you have a permit?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you're good.
I think so too.
Yep.
Okay.
If you're running a problem, come see us.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, we're going to see him next week anyway.
Otherwise, it's a
I'm going
good
to see
one.
you in 2 weeks.
He's always here.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad he is.
Bring donuts.
All right, cool. Good question.
Okay, we are now closing the public hearing. I need to get a motion to.
Make the motion, we stop this.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Mack, second by Mr. Talbert. Any comment from the council?
I had a few phone calls on this one, and I went over all the stipulations like one by one, because you know it's just like with anything else. People say, "Oh, I hear y'all are doing a ordinance on ponds," and you know it's just the misinformation is rampant. But I explained everything one by one. It's going to require this, you know, distancing, how far you have to be from the property line. Everything is reasonable, and they agreed. So that's all I wanted to say. The couple of phone calls I had, everybody was like, "Oh," kind of settled down, and everything was fine. So I think this is a very good ordinance.
I think it is too. Worked on it really hard, you guys. That's good. All right.
Okay, Ms. Haney, you call for the vote?
Mr. Lobel?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yeah.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom? Yes. Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Oh, yes.
Motion passed. Item 15, introduction of ordinance to create a no parking zone at the corner of Olivia Drive and Blades Drive. Mr. Gary Talbot.
Well, we don't need an ordinance. Mr. Moody, in discussion about this, Mr. Moody felt that we had a good parking ordinance in place. And so all we're going to ask is do a resolution to identify 100 feet on Olivia Drive before the intersection of Blades and 100 feet on Blades past the intersection of Olivia. This is a corner. School buses leaving Live Oak Middle School. Yeah, I think it's still the middle school. I don't know, they changed the names of them. Anyway, basically comes down Blades and makes a turn onto Olivia. However, when cars in the car rider line are parked, they cannot make that turn without running into the yard of the person that lives on Olivia Drive. However, if we created a buffer zone of 100 feet before the stop sign and after the stop sign, there would be enough room for the school bus to stay on the road and not run off in somebody's yard. So that's what we've requested. I guess we're going to do it by resolution, ask DPW to post signs that said, this is a no parking zone, and create that buffer so that the school buses don't have to run off in the man's personal property.
Okay. Got a motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. King. Any comment from the public on this? Any more comment from the council?
I will say this, as part of this research, it was always puzzling to Sandy and I both why we have to do an ordinance for every stop sign you put up. And I don't think you'll have to do that in the future either. You have a sign ordinance in place, and so it allows the government to put signs where they're needed. So I think it's a lot of work to do an ordinance, and it has to be advertised, and it's some money involved, and it takes a process, it takes up your meeting time. So I think we can eliminate your stop sign ordinances in the future too. Just put it, or I'll just put it and make it as a resolution, and that's a lot easier.
Okay, and then it's done. Okay.
Does that go for 3-way and 4-way stop signs also?
Yes, sir.
Good, great.
That'll speed things up a little.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it is. Don't have to drag it out.
Well, it might eliminate.
Ms. Sandy, call for the vote, please.
Use legislation.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Okay, item 16, introduction of ordinance to regulate roadside seafood vendors. Mr. Talbot.
Well, we didn't. There's no ordinance that we
Right after 15.
In doing research, we were trying to figure out. I was approached by a constituent that has a seafood shop. I mean, he's got a brick and mortar building. He pays rent, 365 days a year, and insurance 365 days a year, and has an occupational license and collects sales tax and all the other things associated with running a business. And come crawfish season, somebody sets up around the corner and they 50 cents a pound cheaper, and they have no occupational license, and they contribute nothing to the parish coffers, and when crawfish season's over, they're gone, and he just felt that it was unfair. So in doing some research, there are other parishes that have the ability to regulate some roadside vendors, and in talking to Mr. Curtis at the school board office, Mike just basically said that that would be great. He wished we would regulate all vendors. He said, we've got these guys that pop up and sell tools for a weekend on the side of the road, and they collect no sales tax and contribute to our local economy. However, they take revenue dollars away from a hardware store or auto parts store or a big box store that might be selling the same item that they're selling. The same thing with, like if you grow produce and you're able to sell it without having to collect sales tax or a license. However, it doesn't give you the right to go buy a trailer of Washington Parish melons and come down and set up a business on the corner and not collect sales tax and remit it to the parish. So in talking to Mr. Moody, we have a peddler ordinance. We got to do some research, figure out enforcement and some other things. So at this point in time, in the process of trying to figure out how to write the ordinance, we realize that we're not ready to do anything yet. So we know we've got an ordinance to regulate peddlers. We've just got to figure out how to do enforcement and how to go about. We're not trying to stop them. We don't care if you set up on the corner. Just remit to the parish their fair share of what you're collecting, and everybody's happy. And if you're not going to remit your fair share, then you don't need to be in business. I mean, that's my opinion, and I guess everybody differs. But so in essence, right now, we're not going to do anything. We're going to do some more research on our current peddler ordinance, see if it's adequate or if it needs some amending, and if so, we'll bring it back at that point in time.
I think you have to be cognizant of that, like when they'll set up in a parking lot to raise money to send a baseball team here. It's the same situation. It's not necessarily for not-for-profit, but now you're limiting that. So you have to be very careful where you walk with that.
And that's kind of what we're talking. That's kind of one of the things we realized is we knew when we identified seafood vendors that the Boy Scouts weren't selling popcorn and the Girl Scouts weren't selling cookies, and we weren't trying to sell jambalaya to send our kid to World Series. But when we started looking at the whole peddler deal, that was one of the things that we realized might rear its ugly head. So I think that's kind of why we're trying to evaluate, what we're trying to regulate and how we're trying to regulate. So that's kind of why we've backed. Initially, if it was just seafood, it was pretty cut and dry. But once it was asked to be expanded to encompass everything, then we realized there were some problems we had to address. And so that's why we've kind of taken a slow down approach to this thing.
So you're still going to do the introduction, or you just?
No, we're not. We don't even have it written. We're just going to table it for right now. Yeah, we're going to table it. We have an ordinance written. We're just going to figure out the enforcement of that ordinance. Does it do what we need to do, or does it need some tweaking? So right now, it's been tabled.
Okay. Item 16 has been tabled. Item 17, add roads for consideration to the priority road list. Mr. Wasserman.
Thank you, Mr. Ord. After speaking with the mayor of Denham Springs and just evaluating some roads in Denham Springs that just have been pretty well damaged through either the flood or just school buses. I know some of them have caused school bus problems. And the mayor I told him to give me just a couple roads, and he's picked 4 in Denham Springs that just really need to be looked at. And as we as a council don't put those roads on the priority road list, we do have we're the only mechanism to at least get them sent to the engineer to have them evaluated. So he's asked me to put these 4 on the list: Brookfield Drive, Carolyn Avenue, Summers Street, and Sharon Street, which is right by the high school, to get those at least on the priority list, so when the time comes, the engineer can at least look at those, and then, of course, they'll make the decision on which ones get overlaid. But for the Denham Springs area, that's the 4 he'd like to see at least get on there to get them evaluated.
I'd like to second Mr. Wasserman's motion.
I got a motion by Mr. Wasserman and second by
I was going to do it, but fine.
Is there any comment from the public on this?
No, I think that's good.
Any comment from the council?
I'm speechless.
I was not expecting that one.
Ms. Sandy, call for the vote.
Well, you got a fish line. Hey, that's not. I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, item 18 has been tabled. Mr. Harris?
Yes, I had a call this morning from the president of HOA in Plantation and asked me to pull this item from the agenda.
All right.
They're going to try to take a different avenue to get what they want done.
Okay, item 19, request the Department of Public Works to carry out covert work and maintenance within Oakview Mobile Home Park. Mr. Harris.
Yes, met with Mr. Sam and the owners of the mobile home park, and I think we've worked out something that's going to be good. And I'm going to go ahead and offer a motion to accept this.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Mack. Is there any comment from the public on this?
What's that?
What your motion is to
proceed with the work.
With the covert work.
Ask DPW to proceed?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Mr. Sam, you have anything to add on this, or? Council?
You know I do.
Well, that was short-lived.
That's why I looked at you. That's why I looked at you when I said council.
That was short-lived.
Should have looked this way. You know, I mean, I'll be honest with you. The Oakview Drive and Woodward Lane are on the Grand Bankston Road list. There's no doubt about that. Well, there are two roads that are totally encompassed in a business. If you go to Jeff Taylor's website, the Livingston Parish Assessor, and type in Oakview Drive, there are no residents on there that pay property taxes. There's an owner of Oakview Trailer Park that pays property taxes, but there are no residents on Oakview Lane that get a tax bill. If you type in Woodward Lane, there's one resident that gets a tax bill, Jack D. and Christy B. Jones. But if you go to Woodward Lane to their property, they don't have a driveway to Woodward Lane. Their driveway is to Wax Road. So in essence, there's a neighbor to one side, a Mr. John F. and Mona C. Williams, that butt a large portion of Oakview Drive, and they have two culverts in the ditch that actually that against a lock gate that they can access Oakview Drive if they want to, but their property's accessed from Wax Road. So in essence, if you go to the trailer park and you enter the trailer park, there is a stand full of mailboxes, just like any other private business would have, trailer park, apartment complex, because the mail lady isn't going to run through there at a trailer park and drop off the mail at every stop. There's a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit. I took some pictures. There's probably spots that the trailers are 5 feet from the road, meaning that there's road, ditch, and trailer. There's nowhere in this parish that we have no buffer zone between buildings and a road, except that trailer park. There is a street light that the concrete base is touching the road. If you drive around there, there's a little lay-down yard in the back. I guess that would be the parish right-of-way, if it exists, that encompasses a storage building and a place where they have 3 or 4 trailers and some broken down washing machines and dryers. This is a road solely encompassed in a private business. How it got on the parish road list is not my concern at this point in time. My concern is it doesn't belong. We're talking about a trailer park that pays less than $9,000 a year in property taxes, and the parish share of that, of our 5 mills and 2.2, whatever it is less than $1,000. So we're talking about a business that contributes less than $1,000 a year to the parish coffers, and we're maintaining their access to their business. If we want to get in the parking lot fixing business, let's go fix Walmart's parking lot, because they contribute way more to the parish coffers than this trailer park does. So my feeling is that the trailer park doesn't belong on the parish maintenance list, and it ought to be removed. So, that's my feeling. I know that there's a lot of different opinions about that stuff. I was told it's not my district, I should butt out of it. But the fact of the matter is, it's taxpayer dollars, it's parish dollars being spent to maintain a road in a private business. So I would like to make a substitute motion to remove Oakview Drive and Woodward Lane, and I never saw on the map Oakview Circle, but if Oakview Circle is part of it, I'd like to remove it from the parish maintenance list. Now, it's probably going to die for lack of a second, but
I'll second that, because we need to clean these things up. There's many, many of them in this parish that need to come off of the road list. And if we don't start being more prudent with our road fund, we're not going to have a road fund. And that's very important to this parish to have this road tax in place. So this may not be where to start, but we got to start somewhere.
Well, this thing has been on capital improvement. since 1997.
I agree.
Right? It was on the Grant Bankston list, if you want to call it that. And that's whenever it got blacktop, overlaid, or whatever. It wasn't any of our doing.
No, that's right.
But we're being held accountable for it. I agree with that. But the thing is, why should we punish somebody that they didn't have anything to do with it? The parish just decided to go in and do it. So.
Well, I can't dispute any of those things. I know it's been on the capital improvement deal. I understand it was on Grant Bankston, and it might have been taken into the parish long before the current owners acquired it. I can't argue any of those points, but what I can tell you, and it's visible to anybody that goes out and makes a ride through that trailer park, and it could be any type of business. This one just happens to be a trailer park.
Yes,
it's a public road in a private business, and I can probably list 15 people in this parish that own trailer parks that would sign up for us to start maintaining their roads and overlaying them. And I think that you know, in essence, we've created, you know, we didn't create it, but we got to fix it. We've got to be responsible and of the taxpayer dollars. And I think for us to maintain a public road in a private business is not the way to do it. I talked to Mr. Moody. We can easily remove it from the road list by resolution. And there is a process for the parish to give the road back to the owner. We're not even sure how we gained ownership. We might not even have ownership other than the fact that we've maintained it for more than 3 years so it becomes public. We don't know if there's a servitude. We don't know if there's right-of-ways. We don't have anything. We'd have to have title work done and everything.
For all that to be found out before we would even try to remove
Well,
the road.
but
We would need to know that.
I have
Mr.
Garland, the issue is that we've said before, or I've said, I think we all agree that I would, when we talk about the road overlay program, we say, well, I would, at any time, I'd rather have a good gravel road than a bad paved one. Now, whether it's I don't know how this got on the program. It's before our time. But the problem is the parish, we can't really unring the bell in that situation. The parish has went in and made, I'm assuming it was a gravel road, and they've paved it. So do you unpave the road because now the parish has made it more difficult to, if he wants to put those down, they have to go do it. Guys, I mean, I don't disagree with you in any regard. We need to monitor our money and how we spend it on these roads and what should be overlaid and what shouldn't be. But in this case, it's already in the system, and the parish has already got skin in the game. So, I mean, do we do massive improvements? I know we could take it off the overlay program. We could give it back. From what I understand, Mr. Moody had said that we could take any road off anytime we want to. The problem is, should we? In this case, we would give them back something that virtually is harder to fix if it was just gravel. We're in for a penny and for a pound in this situation, and that's just my opinion.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what you
It's nice. Okay, I just wanted to explain why I seconded that motion, and
which one? There's two motions.
Bubba's motion.
Okay, all right.
Scooter seconded Gary's.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of what y'all are saying, and you're right about, we need to use our tax dollars wisely, okay? But I don't want to get into the habit of removing roads that have been in the parish maintenance system. Maybe they didn't meet a certain standard, today's standard, but maybe they met a standard a long time ago. I don't want to go get into all of that. What I want to do is just from this point forward, do the right thing. I think these roads have been in the system for a long, long time. I don't think you should jerk them out from underneath the people that have used these roads. Obviously, it was meant for them to be public, or they wouldn't be public today. The people that was in our seats years ago voted to put it in. And so I second that motion that we leave this in, we maintain it, we monitor the cost and ensure that we spend our money wisely. And so just wanted to explain why I seconded that motion. Appreciate y'all's time.
All right, Mr. Lobel.
I drive down some roads in my district now, and I think that if I tried to put this road in the parish system, they would laugh me off it. Because it obviously is kind of like you say, there's no ditches, there's things right on the edge of the blacktop. And I would guess that every house, every piece of property on some of these roads is homestead exempt. So they're not kicking a thing in. And I think that we changed those criteria, or we realized there was a mistake. We changed the criteria, and now moving forward, we're trying to do the right thing. Do I agree that some of them never should have been on there? I mean, I don't know. I mean, y'all remember when it seemed to me like they came through the parish and paved every cow path there was.
Driveway.
You know? And I don't know why, but it's happened, and now they are baby, unfortunately. And that's the way I see it.
All right, Hope, did you have something?
Yeah, just real quick, the motion is to do some culvert work. It had nothing to do with taking roads out. I don't know how we got into that. But
they're going to tear the road up.
Tear the road up, put the culverts in.
I mean, to fix culverts, you have to do that sometime. But I mean, it's a drainage issue, not a road issue. It's according to what that's on the.
It becomes a road issue when you have to cut across the road.
Okay, I guess my question is this. If you want to pull a road out, Mr. Talbot, with all due respect, and I mean this sincerely, would you want to, how does it differ from Bush Lane? I mean, that's a quarter-of-a-mile road on a private property.
You want to pull Bush Lane out, pull it out.
I mean,
I'm going to be honest with you. Bush Lane, if it wasn't for the fact that it was the only exit for the high school, probably doesn't belong to be in the parish maintenance list.
I mean, you put it,
I didn't put it in the maintenance list.
You overlaid it.
No, I didn't overlay it. I asked for it.
All right, we're getting off track. We're not talking.
We got a question.
We're not talking about Bush Lane. We're talking about this road right here.
I just want to say, I would like.
Can we? I guess we could go on the second motion.
Yeah.
And we got a motion and a second.
I just like, hey, Sam, you have any say? I mean, you're the director of the Public Works. What do you think about the situation? Do you have any comment?
This is something Bubba inherited. This is not his problem.
I agree.
Just like I said earlier, you can ride through the parish and find many, many more that shouldn't be in parish maintenance.
How many of them were solely encompassed inside a business?
Say that again.
How many of them were solely encompassed inside a business?
But I think that's our job.
Okay,
Right.
This is strictly to pull the roads out of the maintenance system. We got a motion and a second.
Okay.
Is there any comment from the public on pulling the roads out of the system? All right, Ms. Sandy, call for the vote.
Just vote no. Motion, I'm sorry.
Wants to pull the roads out of the maintenance system. Remove them from the maintenance system.
This is a substitute motion.
A substitute motion. We got a motion and a second. Ms. Sandy, call for the vote.
Mr. Lobel?
Nope.
Mr. Averitt?
No.
Mr. Mack?
No.
Mr. Ard?
No.
Mr. Wascom?
No.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
No.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
No.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Okay, now on the original motion, something I'd like to say. What I look at is, and I've kind of ran into this in my district. Them culverts were put under that road for a reason. So they're draining property. What's to say that ain't draining neighbors' property? That could be draining any property. So there could have been some kind of thing back then that where the parish come in and said, hey, we really need these culverts going under this road. So if you allow us to put these culverts on this road, we'll take the road in. I've had that in my district where we went across a man's front yard, tore his driveway up. We will take care of that part that we tore up.
There's no culverts there now. That's the issue.
There's none there?
They're dead.
So
we're in essence.
They went in there and put the asphalt down. Then they saw that it wasn't going to drain the center section of this place. So then they had a contractor go back in there and cut swales in there, hoping that would drain. But that didn't work either. So that's the reason this had to happen.
So it hadn't rained since 1997, but now they want us to dig up the road and put culverts in it. Because it's a continuous pour. It's a pour with a dip and a pour with a dip, and they used to drain over the dip. That's how it was designed.
How much it's going to cost the parish to do this?
Well, we got a price on the culvert. That's what you're asking.
But I know you got people on state.
So you got cost of the culverts. How much equipment and manpower? How many hours you gonna do? I mean, I know that y'all got an idea what that costs because we just billed Gravity One to do work for them. So we know what it costs an hour. Then we got to pay somebody to come in and mill the road back down and tie the asphalt in. So do we have a dollar amount of what this is going to cost?
We have probably, it's going to be right around $15,000. Culverts and the asphalt replacement. That's not counting labor.
And what you had said is that it needs to be done because the road created the non-drainage problem? And that makes sense.
We created a problem that we need to fix. I mean, the property's not drained.
And look, I'm not arguing. I'm sorry, Mr. Mag, go ahead.
No, you go, then I'll.
Okay. Nice. I'm not arguing that in a perfect world, I believe all things being equal, this should have never been brought into the parish system. I mean, it shouldn't have been, knowing what I know. Now, it could be a special circumstance like Mr. Art is saying where they grant this, but from what I'm seeing, that's probably not the case. No. But, having said that, though, by the parish overlaying it for our time, noted, they've made it inherently more difficult for the I guess the original owner or whoever owned it. Yeah, to do it. So, I believe that accountability should be in place, but in this case,
and this is, if you don't mind, and this is not the only place where they have went in and overlaid roads, or whatever, and built it up so much that it actually caused flooding. Yep. Then they had to go back in and do some more work, like put culverts in or something like that,
If I just got one more thing.
20-something years to do it.
I mean, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I heard earlier that this location collected about $1,000 a year. It goes in the Department of Public Works for drainage and road maintenance. And so, well, let me just finish my statement. That's what I thought I heard. And so, to me, if it got accepted in 1997, it's 2018, we're talking about $21,000 collected. If you put the culverts in, maybe you can maintain the roads a little bit longer and they'll last another 20 years and we can collect another $21,000 and then we can overlay it. I call for the vote.
All right, vote's been called for. We had Ms. Sandy, you got the motion in the second?
Mr. Harris and Mr. Mack.
All right, call for the vote.
Mr. Lobel.
Yes.
Mr. Averett.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Groenhouse.
yes.
Mr. King.
No.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
No.
More mosquitoes.
Moving on to item 20. Adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver for the allowance of a second address to be issued for a mobile home for a direct descending air on a lot that is 15,429.776 square feet short of the requirement. Mr. Gerlinghouse.
When you say it like that, it sounds like it's a whole bunch.
Well,
We're going to carry that out.
Yeah. They have, I think one of the state agencies looking into this, so I'm going to pull, because there might be a situation where they could actually do that legally, but it's being looked at right now. So I'm going to pull this from.
Table it or pull it?
I'm going to pull it.
Okay.
You'll just put it back.
Yes.
If you need it.
And then I'll put it back.
Item 20's been pulled. All right, 21, request a waiver intended for the allowance of permitting due to the restrictions of LP number 17-22, section 13-46.1. This is the one we do all the time with restrictions of mobile homes. Do we have any, Sandy? We have none for 21. Okay, 22, introduction of ordinance to amend section 13-46.1 to establish ways and means for the permit department to verify if a mobile home is in a named subdivision, eliminating the need for request of waivers. Ms. Sandy, you wrote, you've helped me with this right here. Did we have a question on this, Gary?
Monday, I was at the little DPW meeting, planning meeting that they have every afternoon, and Ms. Dee Dee was sitting in there, and she basically knew what we were doing and said that the list of subdivisions on the assessor's website is not up to date. There are new subdivisions that exist that are not on that website. So consequently, where we were going to go as the resource is not accurate. I'm just giving you that information. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. And she knew about the ordinance and she knew what we're doing, and the comment was made that the resource is not accurate.
So how far behind is the resource? Because, I mean, it would still eliminate most everything, because who's going to be trying to put them in a nuisance?
Gary, did she give an indication that they were actually working on it, or
I think basically what it amounts to is that when a new subdivision is created, they tell the assessor that the new subdivision's there. And then I guess, given that, I don't know when Jeff amends it or how it's done, I'm just telling you, I don't think the implication was, since the website went live, I'm not sure that there have been any new added subdivisions, but that there have been added subdivisions. That was the discussion Monday. And to be honest with you, it's been a pretty hectic week. I really hadn't had a lot of time to follow up on it. So I'm not saying that the ordinance is, I'm just saying that there's a possibility that where you go to determine if something's a subdivision isn't necessarily accurate. And if you don't see a new subdivision in there and then give a permit and it's not on the list, then that's all.
Well, I don't know that we would too much have problems with new subdivisions.
Well, I don't.
But it makes the question: is an old subdivision missing? I'm just. I don't know if I would. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable.
Maybe we just table it, get with Jeff Taylor, and
that's what I would.
That's all. We'll just bring the information. Just bring the information of the comment that was made. I think
this is going to work. I think so. If we get that with Jeff, say.
Yeah, we can get with him, see how far behind he is.
We want this to work, because it was a good thing to have.
I think I read the ordinance. I thought the ordinance was great. I think the only issue is if the basis, the thing we're going to determine if something's a subdivision or not, if it's not accurate, then the whole it's flawed. That's the only issue.
Because right now our system, even though it's laborsome, is accurate.
Yeah. Sandy, you got a question?
Yes, sir. If y'all deem that number one, by using the geoportal is not successful and you don't want to do the orders because of that, can we please keep 2, 3, and 4 as exceptions? Because number 3 says if the property has been deemed and labeled to be known subdivision and does not meet the above criteria, the applicant may appeal to the Livingston Parish Council for a waiver. And then it talks about our list that we do and we send to them, and it says in writing so they'll know that it shouldn't come up again.
So you think we should introduce the ordinance, just delete 1, introduce it as it is, and then we can go back later on and amend the portal thing?
Chris made an ugly way.
Well, it seems to me that I thought the others took care of number 1 if number 1 didn't apply. So 2 is good.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think, Chris, the issue is if somebody, wants to buy a permit and they list a subdivision name, and then somebody in the permit office goes to the parish assessor's website and brings down that list, and that subdivision is not listed, then they're going to automatically grant the waiver.
Permit for a trailer.
And give the permit, and then it might, it might be a subdivision that shouldn't have done. So if the list of subdivisions isn't up to date, and you're going to look for that name, and it's not there, then you think it's a good subdivision, and it's not. It's just because it wasn't on the list.
That might slip through. I got it.
So that was my only thing, is there's a flaw in the list, and if we could get that worked out, then the ordinance is great. It's all, and we never have to have this come before us except for a waiver.
Well, leaving the others in, we pull out.
We call a bunch of stuff out. So
I like them all. I just don't know if the others work.
Yeah, I think it's well written. It looks like.
now, the only issue is with if the list you're looking for is one is not accurate, then the ordinance is flawed. So if you eliminate that till we figure the accurate list out, then 2 and 3 give the ability to eliminate the need for certain things to come to us. So that's my gut feeling. So
Yeah. What do y'all want to do?
You good? That one sound right? We just take one out for now? We can always come back and amend that?
Strike one. Yeah, you can introduce it.
Yeah, strike one or introduce it like that.
And Sandy, I assume if we get the information in the next 2 weeks, we can amend the ordinance before we vote on it, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so motion, Mr. King, you will make the motion on that?
To strike one and move forward.
Strike one and introduce it as original rest.
And I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Talbot. Is there any comment from the public on this? Any comment from the public? Sandy, read by title.
This will be proposed ordinance 18-17. This is an ordinance to amend chapter 13, planning development, section 13-46.1, prohibitions and restrictions of use of the Code of Ordinances in and for the Parish of Livingston, by adding provisions identifying subdivisions. The public hearing will be on May 24th at 6 p.m.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passed.
Item 22, introduction of ordinance to amend section, is that the one we just did? Yep. All right, 23. Discuss burial exemption for Saint, is that?
Margaret
Church. Shane Mack.
Thank you, Mr. Jeff. I just want to say a few things. After the 2016 flood, we had to deal with the reinterment. And in order to reduce that, there were multiple reasons why we chose to write this ordinance. And I feel that it's a good ordinance, but as all ordinances, I just don't know if it fits all cemeteries. I'd like to say that St. Margaret's Church Cemetery is a historical monument. I'd like to say that there's a group of individuals that are on a board out there for that cemetery. And this group of individuals cares for this cemetery deeply. I've rode through there. They take care of it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful cemetery, historical monument in Livingston Parish. There's no doubt in my mind that if we grant them this waiver, that it would be a good thing. They would take care of it. If anything did happen, that they would assist in their reinterment in every way, shape, and form that they would need to. And so tonight, I just want to ask you guys to grant this particular cemetery, based on the conditions that they've never flooded, their historical monument out there on the east side of Livingston Parish, based on the fact that this particular cemetery board meets routinely. And they have lots of rules, and they just do a really good job of maintaining this cemetery. And I think they deserve a waiver from this particular ordinance. And so tonight I'd like to make the motion that we grant St. Margaret's Cemetery on the southwest corner of Livingston Parish, right south of I-12, off the Albany exit towards Springfield, a waiver. So
That's a motion.
that's a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Mack, second by Mr. Harris. Is there any comment from the public? Y'all have anything to say?
I got a spokesman, or y'all good? I know they kicked him, he got up.
My name is William Prokop. I'm with St. Margaret's. I'm with the Cemetery Committee. I represent the physical representation for the letter that we sent to all of you asking for this waiver. And as Mr. Shane has pointed out, it is an old cemetery. We've never flooded, and it's been there since 1910. And highly maintained, well groomed. You're welcome to come out and look at it. It's some of these restrictions that would require us to put on these vaults would be hard for grooming, exceptionally hard. And going through the cemetery the other day, the prohibition of the putting these tombs in or these vaults in now would be a hardship on at least 21 people, because they've gone through the expense of paving in the ground, setting up vaults for their spouses, and they're waiting for themselves to be put there also, instead of being buried in the ground. These are the obstacles that we're up against out there, and we're asking for a waiver because the cemetery has never flooded. And
it's my understanding, not to interrupt, I'm so sorry, that everyone who is in that situation is already granted a waiver.
Yeah, I
They've
thought
already given a waiver to the people who've already established.
Did we vote on that? How did that happen?
We did.
I thought we did.
I thought we.
If you had an existing, you had money spent, then you already have a waiver. Already.
I assume he's asking for the future gravesite.
He is, but the point he just made was
based upon that.
Based on that. I mean,
I got a question, Mr. President. How close did the water come to y'all to that cemetery in 2016? How close did it get to it?
to the cemetery, no, it didn't come there. It flooded back towards the west, which is lower, but the cemetery property never did. In fact, when we had that flood, the cemetery, or the church property, the hall, what we call our hall, we provided shelter for those who were stranded on the interstate until they could get through.
So you saying it got within 300, 400, 500 yards of coming to the...
Oh, it wasn't, yeah, it wasn't.
I got to think. My brother-in-law is interred there in a vault, and when we go see him, it is beautiful. My in-law is Alan and Carol Bordelon. I know y'all know Alan and Carol. They moved.
Oh yeah, I know.
With us, and Mr. Allen hated to move, but we needed him close to us so we could take care of him. What you're requesting is a waiver, period, perpetuity for the thing. And I think it's something that we need to do for this church.
Thank you.
They are very involved in everything that goes on in the church. You guys are there no matter what, whether it be weddings, burials, special events, or whatever. And I would assume there's a night or two around somewhere, but I don't, those guys will kick in and they all work together. They get this thing done. So I would ask y'all also to let this.
And I agree with Scooter on that. If it's not something that is regularly flooding, I do not have a problem with that.
You know what?
If it's close to flooding every time it rains, now we got a problem.
Right.
It didn't flood 16. How far is it from the interstate?
Oh, it's right there on the surface.
You can see it. So you know that, and I'm just you can't really take 2016 into account because the wall ended.
Right.
Now it's going all the way. So if we get a rain like that again, who's to say?
It's south side, it's on the south side.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, a lot of
What'd you call it, Gary?
didn't flood though.
Well, I just got a question. When we did this ordinance, there were several churches that came and talked to us about the situation. And I thought the no seal casket deal solved the floating problem. That you didn't have to do anything different other than to put a no seal casket in.
It does.
And if those people that have done everything that I've already done, if they're interned in a no seal casket, then if it floods, the water goes in the casket and it doesn't float away. So I thought the reasoning behind doing that was that if you used a no seal casket, then what you had done in the past was fine. And if you didn't use a no seal casket, you either needed to strap down the vault or intern and ground. So in essence, if the individuals that are being interned at that cemetery in vaults that are already above ground, if they go in a no seal casket, doesn't it accomplish exactly?
It does, but
there's a lot of individuals that don't want to be buried in a no seal casket.
So this is one of those cases where we just need to grant the waiver. These guys are going to take care of it, and I would assume their sons are going to be taking care of it when they're gone.
Look, I'm not,
because you know that's how it passed down over there. You guys are just like this.
I'm gonna tell y'all that there was a flood in 2000.
All right.
Now, can I finish speaking?
No, call for the question. We had a motion. Who had the motion? Mr. Mack, you had the motion? Mr. Harris seconded. You got to make a motion to continue discussion.
I'll make a motion to continue discussion.
I second that
motion. Second by Mr. Garlandhouse.
I mean,
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Mr. Talbot.
Okay, in 2003, we had a lot of places flood in Denham Spring. We had a bunch of places that didn't. Never flooded. I mean, I'm gonna tell you the place that my business is was built 2 feet above the flood stage of 2003, and we never got flood insurance because shoot, the water ain't never gonna get that high, and it got 6 feet in that business. So what I'm telling you is, just because it hadn't happened doesn't mean it's not gonna happen. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. All I'm saying is that we gave an opportunity for the cemetery aesthetics to remain exactly the same by changing the type of casket.
And I think they may very
And
well
you can
still do that in some instances when people go, I don't care whether it's sealed or not, then you would use a sealed one just in the unsealed, just in the event that something happened in the future.
But I mean,
that's what's going on.
what the question is whether the ordinance is good as it's written. If you give a waiver, then you're going to have to give a waiver, and in which case you're going to give someone else a waiver when they say they haven't flooded. And I get it, I understand,
right.
I get it, but then the ordinance becomes
It's not.
it becomes useless.
It's really, guys, and too, it's not strictly based upon they never flooded. This particular cemetery is a historical monument for Livingston Parish, this church. And this board meets on a routine basis, and there's documented meetings, they have minutes. They maintain this facility, this cemetery like no other. It's beautiful.
I mean, in all due respect, Mr. Mack, every cemetery is a place of reverence and
it is.
And commands respect.
It is. It is.
And when these flood events occur, then the people, the parish, the people in general have to go through the daunting, horrible task.
Anguish.
And that's just not the loved ones go through that not knowing. And I went through that. And so it's every cemetery is that way. So we have to decide
on a case-by-case basis.
I mean, I just think that every cemetery, even the ones that have been overtaken or are it's just that's where you put your loved ones to rest. And so we either respect all of them that way, or we make an exception. And I understand they take a great deal of pride in y'all cemetery, y'all do, and y'all maintain it, and y'all meet and y'all regularly and take care of things. But that's not going to stop flood water, even though they never flooded. And I get that, but Mr. Talbot is correct in the sense, there's always a first time, and I'm just saying.
If we make this waiver, do we put in there that no matter what happens, Parish is not held responsible for
because you have to be.
I know we should be, but I mean
we're sitting in a situation right now. Plainview still has vaults sitting out above ground,
and we are responsible because you can't not do it. It's not like it's a ditch you don't have to clean.
Right, I get it. I was just asking a question because
Mark came to us as a director of OHP and asked us to approve this ordinance. And we wrote an ordinance. We wrote. Of course, he wanted everything interned in the ground at a particular depth so that it, because I think there were some cemeteries in Denham that went completely underwater, but everything was interned and there were no problems. So we know that works. But then there were groups that came to us that requested, other options. Jeff, we had to talk about women not wanting to be buried underground. And so we came to a resolution that gave those people two options. That they could either strap it down, which was not aesthetically pleasing, but it solved the problem, or they could be interned in a no-seal, which maintains the aesthetics and solves the flooding problem. I think we had this debate and addressed it and tried to address all concerns. And to just say that there's never going to be a problem, it just doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, I do. I see that.
And it was, speaking with Mr. The Seal Funeral Home got contracted to reinter everyone after the fact. And when speaking to the gentleman who was running that, I asked him, I said, well, how many of these were sealed? Because how many of these vaults floated that were sealed? And he said, none. Every single one that floated was in a sealed casket and in a vault that wasn't. Everyone that they sealed properly, the vault, every one of them stayed under. And this is, Evergreen Cemetery set in, I know, 5 foot of water.
The vaults didn't float off.
That's right.
The coffin popped the top off and off they went.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just, it's unfortunate, but it's dirty business.
It's a tough call, but I think this council, we did our diligence last time to try to come up with options to appease everyone. And I know that, I think the only difference would be that cemetery, if they just use no float, no seal caskets, then they solve all the issues with respect to the aesthetics and meeting the ordinance.
So the question that you asked was about, what you brought up was 21 places where it would disrupt, but those are already off the table.
Correct.
So if
they're grandfathered.
Those are grandfathered in. If somebody's already spent money, poured some concrete, whatever, bought the...
That's not written anywhere.
It's not written anywhere?
It should be.
I thought it was because we had a funeral home.
Where we had the situation and they would not bury.
Okay.
They would not.
I remember
They have to come and get individual waivers each time. They got.
Oh, okay.
They had to come get a letter, and I thought we came to a resolution with the no floats that solved that problem. No sealed caskets.
Yeah, but no sealed is an exemption in the current ordinance.
Right. We came up with those two exemptions to everything's to be interned in ground except for if you strap down the vault lid or you go in a vault with a no seal casket. And so in essence, I'm not.
So you're just saying it's nowhere does it say it's grandfathered in?
It's not, but I would like.
But that, Chris, wouldn't that just be?
Well, we have been given letters indicating that's our interpretation. So that's satisfied every situation that's come up where it's been in process. If they were already in process, You know, they had already started the vault, paid for it, made arrangements, because I don't think you could really enforce that. But that was just my interpretation of your ordinance, so.
And with this present council, so if the next council would say, no, we don't recognize them like this, would be different.
Well, they have to change the ordinance.
Well, in general, and really, you can't affect anybody who's already in process, like the ex post facto.
Automatically grandfather then.
Yeah, so even though it's not written.
It doesn't have to be written. You started before this ordinance was put in place, so your grandfather then.
I think that's, I think Shane's asking for a waiver period.
Yeah, on the entire cemetery.
Yeah.
What is my understanding that the motion that was voted on and passed, what is that? A waiver?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, St. Margaret's thanks you, because we surely feel that we can meet the responsibilities of our interments.
We haven't voted on the waiver yet. He just asked for it, that's all.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
We voted to keep discussion open.
But he made a motion to continue discussion.
And I seconded it.
So,
Listen, and you said yes. So we never voted on. No, not yet.
no, we haven't voted on that yet.
Gentlemen, look, this is a,
You have no comment?
this is a good ordinance. It is. It's a good ordinance. And I just think that it'll weaken it all the way across the board if this is granted. And I'm just saying, guys, well, I mean,
At one point.
If you don't blanket, you don't blanket waive anything.
Yeah, go. It's just.
I mean, they could bring case by case if it was something like that.
You guys are on a high hill. They didn't flood in 16. I realize you can't never say never, but
My house is 5 foot higher than the road in my neighborhood, and I got a foot of water in it. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, you can't never say never.
No, you
gotta
can't.
decide. Gordon got his hand up.
I got my hand up now.
Come on,
I'll keep
we
it
fixing to vote.
Yeah, I know. I know it's late, gentlemen. Gordon Courtney, 31246 Old Baton Rouge Highway. Once again, I'm running into a problem with my property. I own 2 plots in St. Margaret's Cemetery for myself and my wife. My father-in-law and my mother-in-law are buried there. 2 of my brothers-in-law are buried there. You say it's okay to grandfather those people who already have concrete. Well, what about people that bought the plot years ago with the expectation that they would be able to inter themselves and their spouses a certain way? I understand what you're saying, Mr. Girlinghouse, but I was against the ordinance from the very beginning. Instead of constantly attacking the property owners for the flooding, why doesn't this parish attack the problem? Why doesn't this parish put as much effort into coming up with a master plan for drainage as they do on worrying about a road and a mobile home park or worrying about my cemetery plots? Now, if they can grandfather a road that was taken over by the parish in 1997 and go ahead and continue to treat it the way it was treated in 1997, and I would like my cemetery plot to be treated the way it was when I purchased it, and I would like to be grandfathered in. And I'm sure everybody else in that cemetery that had a plot prior to August 2016 would like to be grandfathered in. I wish y'all would give that some consideration.
Any thoughts on that, Chris?
Well, the only thought I have is that anytime this comes up, I've just warned you about giving variances. Grant this one, you'll have to grant every other one, unless you can find some way to distinguish why this is different, why this needs special consideration. Well, it could be that they've never flooded, but if so, if that's the only distinction, then be prepared to get grant variances for every other that never flooded. So I will remind you also, the state asked us to adopt this ordinance because we were lucky enough to get FEMA money and state money to go back and reinter all these caskets, and we had
none of those were sealed, by the way.
Right. And so I don't think we'll get that consideration in the future because they've asked us to take care of this so we won't have that problem again. And if it happens again, it may be on you or the local public dollars to go reinter these caskets. There's a lot of work too because some of these we had to file lawsuits, dozens of them. We had to file lawsuits to get permission to reinter remains because we couldn't find the families. They died so long ago. So,
and if you remember, part of the ordinance is an identification process so that we could make it easier to intern in the future. So I mean, the ordinance was written with a lot of thought, and there was a reason that nobody wanted to have to address this issue, but there was a reason that we had to address the issue.
My only other thought is that if you could come up with some kind of level, whether it's so much above sea level or so much above base flood elevation, you'll consider variances. If it's over a certain level and if it's higher than normal, then that might be one you could stand behind.
There is a third option too, and it was something I had spoken with there's a way you can seal the normal vault. Now it's not 1,000% effective, but it does work most of the time. The funeral home would do this at times whenever they would have something that kept, every time it rained, it would float to something at ground level. They sealed it, and it does work. It's not in the ordinance, but it's something we could work in, and it's something you wouldn't, there's no noticeable difference. You got to build a concrete, it's a little more expensive, but it's something else we can consider. And I would be glad to get with Mr. Mack on this and get a procedure if we want to rewrite the ordinance. But I caution you gentlemen, if you grant this waiver, this ordinance is junk.
This is a waiver for the whole cemetery, what you're asking for. You made the motion. Scooter's
Bubba did. I wanted to, and he wouldn't let me.
All right, Bubba second. All right, Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Mack made the motion and Bubba Harris made the second.
That's right.
Mr. Lidwell?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
No.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
No.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
No.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah.
Mr. Talbert?
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion passes with 5.
Passes. All right, motion passes.
2, 3, 4.
If I could just make a comment about something you said, Mr. Courtney. We did try to cover the whole parish with gravity drainage here in November, and that didn't pass, so we gave that a shot.
We're going to work on that. That's coming.
Yeah, we're going to, you know that. You know we're going to work on that.
We're going to get that one day.
Okay, 24, District Attorney Report.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
All right, 25, Committee Report, Ordinance Committee, Mr. Mack.
I'd like to say that there's multiple ordinances that needs work, and that the ordinance committee's working very hard to introduce a houseboat ordinance, a wrecker service junk car ordinance. And we need to make some modifications to the ordinances that y'all talked about. But
Are you ready to introduce that record deal with Sam?
yeah, we could go ahead and put that on the next meeting agenda. We didn't really talk about it as an ordinance committee, but I think everybody's going to be okay with it.
DPW's got the ordinance ready for us, so we just need to.
We could email it out this week and let everybody review it, and if everybody wanted to talk more about it, we can always table it or defer it.
It's just a basic. I think there's been a lot of research done with the sheriff and some other stuff to try to get this. We're going to use a sheriff's rotation on records, and it just gives DPW a way. These junk cars that we've had struggle with, it's going to get us a quick solution to those. So it's going to. I think it's a good ordinance that we've got coming.
Yeah.
Okay, Finance Committee, Mr. Girlinghouse.
Finance Committee met earlier for this meeting at 5:30. News is the projections for the finance are actually above what we expected post flood, so everything looks fairly good in those regards.
Okay, council comments? Okay, I have one comment I want to make. I just want to let everybody know that next Saturday, the 19th, we have two very important fundraisers in our parish. One is at Greystone. It's for Deputy Nick Touye. It's a crawfish cook contest, and I think it's $50 a person. Eat all the crawfish you want, but all the proceeds go to Nick Touye's family to help him. The other one is a young lady that has leukemia. They're going to be doing a cooking contest at Crazy Days. Same thing, all money raised is going to be to go to St. Jude to help the young lady there. So I just ask that everybody go out and try to help both of these.
You didn't say that we're going to be there cooking, the council.
Yeah, we'll be cooking for the crawfish.
The teams, they're going to be really good. Jeff said he's amazing.
I'm good. I'm good.
You're modest.
What they say? What they say? Never trust a skinny cook.
That's what I'm talking about.
Crawfish don't mean really cooking down.
Yeah.
That's right. No hair.
All right, I get a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Lobel, second by Mr. Averett. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?